The first speaker today is Dr. Lena Batt. Her dissertation talk title is How Do School Leaders Conceptualize, Garner, and Allocate Resources? A Qualitative Examination.
Thank you, Michael. Go ahead and start. My research question that framed my research was, how do school leaders conceptualize, garner, and allocate resources? I go beyond the simple definition of resources, one that you can buy in a budget, to more abstract resources such as time, schedules, and pedagogy. For my dissertation focused on school-level resource decisions, I completed 3 different studies. The first, quantitative study, examined budget choices in New York City public schools, where there is greater principal-level fiscal autonomy than in most districts. My other 2 qualitative studies were based on 3 elementary schools in 2 typical mid-sized Midwestern districts, one that was an affluent suburb, while the other was a city about an hour away that was struggling economically. I used interviews and documents to understand how principals prioritized, used, allocated, and garnered resources, and thought about why these differences mattered in their decision-making. So I'm going to focus on the findings from the 2 qualitative studies and exemplify them using a quote from one of the principals. To set the context, the district is situated in a fiscally constrained community and decided to implement a new math curriculum in the elementary schools, which provided many manipulatives to help teach it. The principal I will highlight was from a school that was one of the 2 schools out of 12 that did not receive Title I funding. So their building budget was very small, even though 41% of their students qualified for free or reduced lunch. They felt a greater sense of scarcity around resources compared to the school that received Title I funding in the more affluent district in my study. So here's the quote that's on my slide. "We did get all the manipulatives because we have this brand new math curriculum we're adopting. And so I needed Unifix cubes. And I thought, you know what? My girlfriend's pretty resourceful. So I reached out to her. I know you're on whatever the Facebook things are where they sell things. I know now it's called Marketplace. Can you keep an eye on that? We need Unifix cubes because we have those snapping cubes, but they're so hard to manipulate and you don't get an accurate measurement." Well, so she went on there and posted it on Facebook, and a teacher I taught with 6 years ago messages and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm not teaching now. I bought a bunch of those myself. I'll just donate them to your school." And I mean, it was like people were coming out in droves and donating. The principal, a former classroom teacher, prioritized instruction in all of her resource decisions, even when her peers did not. As a result, as principal, she decided to co-teach the new curriculum with her teachers so that she knew the curriculum and how it was being implemented. This was in the midst of navigating staff absences in the pandemic. As she co-taught, she realized that the manipulatives provided with the curriculum could not be used easily by the younger students and was affecting their learning. She only knew this through the co-teaching experience. As a result, she used her connections and time to find new manipulatives, the Unifix cubes, even though she could not buy them with a limited building budget. She worked for several months and relied on many relationships she had cultivated for donations because she knew this was one of the best options for her students. This example exemplifies my main qualitative findings. First, while often assumed not to be the case by researchers, principals have agency around resource use and will often change how things are done, ultimately impacting the impact of any resource on students. Second, principals use their previous experience in educational philosophy to determine which resources they will prioritize in their school, such as instruction, compared to other ideas like equity or relationships. Third, principals in fiscally constrained districts, especially when they do not have Title I funding, since they are seen as more affluent schools, spend much more of their time fundraising and need to cultivate relationships to actually garner necessary resources, adding to inequity. And those were the main findings.
Thank you so much. That was amazing, Dr. Batt.